Welcome back to the arcade. Well, we got the first GORF RAM card fixed. Can we fix the second one? Let's get to it and find out. Let's go to board number 4. Now this one had a problem too, and basically it looked just like the other one, so I'm not going to worry about switching it back to the regular ROM and showing you what this one looked like, because it looked virtually the same. So let's just go ahead and put it in here and see what it says. Alright, let's turn it on and go see what we got. And as you can see, yes, we knew we had a problem. It's got the sort of horizontal lines across there. But we can still read the message here, and press fire for SRAM test. And if the SRAM is the 2114s on the ROM RAM board, I know that's good, and it just passed. So SRAM test passed. Okay, let's press fire and check the DRAM. Okay, interesting. DRAM test failed, slot 6, chip U02. Exact same as the other card. Okay. Says DRAM test failed. Let me try it one more time. Slot 6 U2. Okay, well, let's go ahead and turn this off. Remove the card. And we get to replace another S2. All right, well, let's go ahead and try this again. Let's see if the third time is going to be the charm. Make sure we got the right one, U2. U2 is right here. So, seems to be working a little bit better this time. That one is kind of on a power rail or a ground rail. I really don't want to turn my heat up anymore. I'm having good luck and not lifting any pads.
but it seems like it's a little on the cold side here. Maybe I'll just up it just a touch. Don't want to push my luck. These pins are bent over a little bit. I hate it when they bend the pins over. I like pins that are left straight up. Makes it easier to get the soldering iron on them. Don't know why they love to bend pins over sometimes. Well, I know why. To hold them in the board. But it makes it so much harder when you got to take them out. So whenever you're replacing anything, if not to make your life easier, the next person that has to work on it, please don't bend the pins over. When you're doing a cap kit or anything, leave them straight and then cut them off. Alright, let's see how we did on this one. It just seems like they're all, there's no solder on this side, but they just seem like they're all sticking. So I'm afraid I'm going to have to use the same technique before, just start clipping it out until it fatigues enough of the sweat joints to break it loose. I can already feel some of them loosening them up. See, the chip is already loosening up. And there it is, come right out. Doesn't take much sometimes, but I hate to put a lot of pressure on the chip, and if I do have a joint that's not just a sweat joint, what I mean by a sweat joint is you got solder on the legs of the chip, the tin, and you got solder on the pads. And even though you've sucked the majority of the solder off, you have like a sweat joint. You just, what's left on both surfaces, because they're tight against each other, they still bond. But since you don't have a thick amount of solder around the leg and the through hole, it comes out easier, but it can still be enough to where when you got 16 pins sweated in, it can still be kind of hard to get it to come loose. But yeah, see, there it is right there. It looks good, and it looks good on the back side too, so we're ready to put a socket in. So got a socket lined up here. something on here to hold it up. Alright, I'm only going to tack the two corners, and then I'll check it to make sure it's in all the way. And if it's not, then I can just hold pressure on it and heat up the leg, and it'll go back in place. So let me get one on this end. And one on the opposite end, across. And then I'll check it, make sure it's in level, and it is. Try to get it in there a little close. And let's solder it in. Okay. Take a close look at that. They all look good. All right. Get another new chip out. Line it up into socket. Okay, ready to test. Okay, let's put the board in. Let's turn it on and go around the front and see what it says. See if it fixed it or if we have another one that's bad. Okay, well, we definitely got another one that's bad looking at the screen. Wonder if it's going to be the exact same one. Wouldn't that be funny? Alright, press fire for SRAM test.
SRAM test passed. Okay, now press fire for DRAM test. Slot 6 chip U08. Well, at least it's a little bit different on the same row, but last time it was U7, so now it's U8. So let's go ahead and change that one. Okay, U8 right here. Okay, that one went pretty smooth. I actually was able to take the chip out undamaged. Even though it's bad, it don't really matter. So anyway, here we are. New chip installed at U8. So let's put the board in. And we'll fire the game up. And let's see what happens. Did we fix it this time, or do we have another one to go? Oh, looks like we might have another one to go here. Okay, hit the fire for SRAM. And SRAM test passed. So now let's try the DRAM. Okay. This time, slot 6 looks like chip is at 05. I believe that's 05, not 06. It looks like it's got on the top of it is flat rather than rounded. It's a little hard to tell sometimes when the screen is sort of messed up like this. You might not even be able to make it out on the camera. Well, let me try it again. SRAM test in progress. SRAM passed. This one says U10. Let's try it a few times and see if we keep getting different readings. This may have something other than a bad SRAM. All right, it says again, chip at U10. Wait a minute, was that other one? No, it said slot 6, I believe. U10. All right. Try it a few more times. If it keeps going back to U10, then we'll change U10. Like I said, this test could be a little flaky, or maybe it's just my particular game. Okay, U10. So let's go ahead and change U10. Because I believe U10 is on a different row. Let's see. Yeah, U10 is right here. So the first one, U2, was up here on this row. Then we had U8. Now we got U10. But I wonder if we change U10, are we going to have one bad down here? Well, we could, because it should test in a particular order. So I would think it starts up here and test till it gets to the next one and stops. So, all right, let's go ahead and do U10. Okay, U10 has been replaced. So let's try it out. Put it back in the cage. Turn
turn it on. Let's go run the test again. Still no joy. Looks like we still got problems. Press fire for SRAM test. SRAM test passed. Press fire for DRAM test. Okay. DRAM test failed. Slot 6 chip 06 or 05. That's the same one that it failed at earlier. Let's run the test again and see what happens. Slot 6 chip U06. Run it one more time. Same thing, U06. Okay, well, let's replace that and see what happens. Okay, well, we're going to put that U6 in. So let's go ahead and put it in and test it and see what results we get this time. Turn it on and let's go see. Okay, well, it's not looking very good. All right, let's press the fire button for the SRAM test. SRAM test passed. All right, let's press the fire button for the DRAM test. And it says slot 6 chip U06. That's the one we just replaced, I believe. Uh-oh. I bet I was wrong. I bet it wasn't 6. I bet that's a 5. Because it looks like it's got a flat line on the top of it right there. It makes it a little hard to read the text sometimes when you still got a bad chip. Okay, well, maybe that's U5 instead of U6. Well, let's go ahead and change out U5. And if that doesn't change it, then we may have another problem. So let's see what happens. Let's go ahead and change U5. Okay, replaced U5. This don't do it. We're going to have to do some rethinking on it. Of course, we could always have another one bad, I guess. Okay, let's give it a try. Fire it back up and see what we get. Still not good. Still not good. All right. Let's press the fire button. Check the SRAM. SRAM test passed. All right. Now let's try the DRAM.
Huh. Slot 6, chip U5 or U6, one of the two. Same thing. It sure looks like a U5. Okay, let me try something here. Cut it off. I'm going to take it out of slot 6. And then we're going to take the board out of slot 5 and move it to slot 6. And then we're going to move this board to slot 5 and see if it gives us the same error in the different slot. Okay, see what happens. Oh, this looks even worse, but might be able to read it. All right, let me hit the fire button for the SRAM test. And it says that passed, so let's hit it for the DRAM test. And it says slot 5, and that looks like U5. Okay. Let me pull it back out and check over, make sure I didn't mess up on soldering that socket in. Take a good look at it here. Now everything looks good. Let me pop in another RAM and see what happens. Okay, well, I went ahead and pulled the U5 out of the new socket I put in, and just to be double sure, I went and ohmed out the socket, and there's no shorts and all the connections are good. So I went ahead and installed another new chip in there, and we're gonna put it back in and try it again and see if we get the same results. If we get the same results, then we've got another problem. All right, and it looks like we still got the problem, but let's see if it comes up with the same chip. All right, SRAM passed. And slot 5 chip, it looks like 05. Okay. Let me put it back in the other slot, slot 6, because it was a little bit easier to read in slot 6. So let me swap these cards back around.
All right, let's try it again.
Much easier to read with the blue screen behind it. All right. The SRAM passed. DRAM failed, slot 6 chip 05. Okay, I'm going to have to look at the schematics and look at 05 and see what chip controls that, and see if I can come up with any ideas.
Okay, well, it's the next day, and I had to do a little thinking about what might be going on with this RAM card. And I got to thinking the test is testing each one of these RAMs one at a time, and if it passes, it goes to the next one. Well, what if, well, when it tests, I would think that the test would be the program ROM would write to the RAM and then read it back. And if it read back the same thing that it sent to it, then it would pass and go to the next one. Well, what if we have a problem with whatever is switching to each one of these RAM chips, either switching or reading them? I guess it would be a data line. Okay, I'm going to admit I don't know that much about digital logic. I have repaired a few boards, but the way I do it is I try to use a little common sense and try to narrow it down, try to figure out what is the board doing and what's it not doing, what's it supposed to do. Look at the schematics and try to figure out what area that would be and try to, look in that area. And I do have a logic probe. I do have a scope, but I've never used a scope on a board. But with this being in the card cage, it's going to be kind of hard to use a logic probe on any of this. And this is such a simple board here. I figured that just examination of the schematic and what evidence I have here of the chips that I've changed, maybe we can sort of figure something out. So this is what I come up with. I got the schematic out of the manual online, and it's not very good because, well, the scan is kind of poor. Well, actually the scan is pretty good, but I would imagine the manual is a little poor because of the size of it. I believe they do make full-size schematics, and I do have a set of schematics on the way I got off of eBay, which I'm hoping is going to be, I know they're bigger because they fold out, but I'm hoping the quality is going to be a little bit better and it'll be a little more detailed. But this is what I figured out so far. This board here has 16 4027 RAMs on it. Okay. Here's the schematic, and these are the 16 RAMs. I put an X on the ones that I've replaced. I replaced U2, U5, U6, U8, and U10. Okay, I downloaded the data sheets for the RAM chip as well as the other chips on the board. And so I could figure out the pinout and by looking at the schematic and the pinout of the chip, I can tell what is the inputs, the data inputs and the outputs and all that good stuff. And that help determine what's going on here. So each one of these chips has an in and an out, a data in and a data out. So what I did was I labeled the in and the out on each one of them here that I replaced, and I drew lines highlighting on the schematic where they go. And U2, the in and the out, both go to U19. Also, I replaced U5, and they also go to U19. The only one that doesn't is, let's see, U8. U8 goes to U18, but also U10 also goes to U19. So I'm thinking maybe, since this is the in and the out, it's not properly reading the chip. If the chip is good and all the connections between the data lines are good, which they are because I've checked the continuity, then it has to be a problem between the chip and where it's communicating. Like this chip right here is a 74 LS 253, and it has 2 outputs and 2 inputs, and the output of the chips go to the inputs, and the output of this goes to the input of the RAM. So I'm thinking that U19 is a problem, and U19 is a 74 LS 253. It's a 3-state data selector multiplexer. So this chip evidently is what selects the different chips. I don't know exactly how it does it, but I'm sure it's controlled by the CPU on the main board, and when it needs the data, it transfers it, from between this chip and the RAM chips. Okay, maybe it does, maybe it don't, but that's just the way my thinking is. And like I say, this is all just basically me trying to figure it out by the data that I find, not knowing exactly how all this works, but knowing a little bit about how it works. So anyway, what I think I'm going to do is U19 is right here. I'm going to go ahead and try to remove U19 off the board without damaging it. And if I'm successful at that, then I'll be able to test it in my chip tester and find out if it says it's bad or not. Of course, that doesn't mean that it is, because these testers that you get off eBay, they work to a certain extent, but they're not 100% all the time. But they're better than nothing. Let's put it that way. So let me go ahead and set up my desoldering station here, and let's see if I can desolder this chip. Okay, let's give it a go. U19 right here. Okay, they look pretty good. All right, let's see if we can get under it and wiggle it. There we go. All right. Okay. Now that we got the chip out, let's see if we can test it. It says not found. I was a 74 LS 253. '74 LS 253. 253. Fault. Well, this says it's bad. So, that's good news and bad news. The good news is, maybe that's going to fix it. Bad news is, I don't have any 74 LS 253s. But, the good news is, I have some on order, because I was anticipating that I would probably need these to fix it. So, we're going to magically be transformed into the future, and we'll be right back. Okay, well, let me get you caught up to speed. For me, it's been 5 days, and I've been waiting for this 74 LS 253 to come in. I already shot a bunch of footage here, doing some more tests. I've already explained this one time, but I didn't realize the batteries went dead in my wireless mic. So I got all the video footage, but I have no audio. So rather than just dub it over, I'm going to just go through and explain what I've done up till this point. If you remember this 74 LS 253 that I pulled out of U19 right here, tested bad in my IC tester. Well, I don't know how many of you caught it, but maybe you did, maybe you didn't. I'm a boob. I made a mistake. When I tested this chip, I put it in wrong. If you look over here, it gives you a little drawing, a representation, and that you're supposed to put the chip in at the top of the socket. Okay, well, I've been doing a lot of burning EEPROMs lately in my EEPROM burner. My EEPROM burner, the zip socket, is set up backwards. You put the chip in the bottom, and if the chip is longer, has more pins, it goes up towards the top. This one, you put it in the top, and if the chip is bigger, it goes down towards the bottom. So I just didn't see that, and just habit, I put it in wrong, so it tested wrong. Well, here's the original chip, and if I turn it on here, hit enter, the auto search works, and if you can see that, it says 74 LS 253. So there was nothing wrong with that chip. So we live and learn. Anyway, I went ahead and I put a socket in, and I went ahead and put one of the new 74 LS 253s in the socket. And I went ahead and put the board in and tested it, and we were still getting a bad RAM error. And we're getting a bad RAM error on U6 right here, which had already been replaced. So then what I decided to do was take my board that we did in part 1, where we replaced 2 of the RAM chips, and that fixed the board. So I have 2 socketed RAMs here in this board. So I decided to pull all the RAMs that I put in this board, plus the 4 RAMs, the original RAMs that I took out of this board. I managed to get 4 out of the 5 out without damaging them. So I went ahead and I tested these. All 4 of these tested bad. So 4 of these original ones was bad, and I suspect the 5th one that I cut 2 legs off of it to get it out. So I can't test it, but I'm assuming that's bad too. So it's a possibility that maybe there's nothing wrong with this board except for the RAM chips are bad. You know, why so many RAM chips are bad, I don't know. Maybe it's because the game this was in had a power supply problem, and maybe the power supply blew the majority of the chips. May have blown all of them. By the time I get finished testing this, I may have replaced all of them. But anyway, since I tested all the chips that I had, the new ones and everything, I did find I had one bad new chip. One of the new chips was bad, and that happened to be in U6. So I put another chip in U6, put it in and tested the board, and this time I came up with a bad U12. So I removed the socket at U12. Well, I removed the chip. I haven't put a socket in it yet. But I took that chip and I put it in the first board that's fixed in U2. So now I'm going to put this board back in the game and see if that chip that I just pulled out of this board is good or bad. If this chip is good, that means we have another problem on the board. If the chip is bad, well, it could mean that the chip was just already bad, or did the chip go bad with me desoldering it? Have no way of really knowing that. All we'll know for sure is if it's good or bad. So let's go ahead and put this in and test it and figure out whether this chip is good or bad. Okay, I got the board in. Let's turn the game on and let's go see what the test tells us. And it definitely must be bad because we see the lines in the blue background. Let's go ahead and hit the SRAM test. And SRAM passed. And it says the chip in U2 is bad. So that's the chip that we just took out of the other board that was in U12. So that chip must be bad. So let me go ahead and put a socket in U12 and put a new chip and test the board again. Okay, got a new U12 in the board. So let's put the board in and give it a try. Let's see what we got. Cross the fingers. Can't hurt. Ain't helping. Okay. Let's see what we got. SRAM passes. DRAM test failed, slot 6
chip U14. U14. Okay, U14.
Well, that was U12 that we just replaced, and now it says U14 is bad. Considering this test is probably testing the chips from 1 through 16, well, let's go ahead and, even though I don't have any more new ones, I still got the 2 that I can pull off the other board. So let's go ahead and pull 14, test that, and then we got 2 more left, so that's about the only thing I know to do. It looks like we just had a bunch of bad chips. Unless we come up with a pattern on here that might point us towards another chip that's bad. But let's go ahead and, since every one I pulled off so far has been bad, let's go ahead and pull this one. Okay, got a socket and a new chip in U14. So let's try it out and see what happens. All right, card's in the rack. Let's give it another test. Cross our fingers. Didn't work last time, but maybe it'll work this time. Nope, no such luck. Rats. Okay. Let's go ahead and test. All right, well, we know SRAM's good. Slot 6, chip 03. Now it's gone back to the top of the list again. Okay, let's regroup. Okay, well, it's hard to believe that all these RAM chips are bad, but I guess that's a possibility. You would think that if I pulled them out and put them in another board, if they were good, they were going to be good. But they're all checking bad. So are they really bad, or are they going bad from me pulling them out? I'm not using excessive heat on them, so I don't see where that would cause them to go bad. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit here. I've been using the Mark Speth test ROM. So I've got a copy and burned a new ROM of the Dave Turner GORF test ROM, and that's Commander Dave. So let me pull the RAM board and we'll exchange this ROM, and let's try another test. Basically, it's supposed to do something similar, but let's see if it gives us the same results. All right, well, I put Commander Dave's test ROM in here, and I put my original board that we fixed in part 1 that's got the 2 replaced RAM chips on it. I put that in, and let's test it and see what the test looks like when we have good RAM, because supposedly it's all good RAM in it right now. Okay, so we definitely have a different test here, and it's David E. Turner 2005 Commander Dave version 1.0. All right. Press player 1 button to start. So his is a little different. So let's press player 1 button. All video memory test good. End of memory test. Press player 1 button to restart test. Okay, well,
I guess that's all it does. So all video memory test good. So okay, well, we know that it's supposed to be good. So let's go ahead and put the other board in and see what comes up. Okay, board's in, game's on. And let's see what it looks like. And we definitely got the same blue screen in the background. All right, well, let's see what happens when we hit the player 1 button and start the test. Error on card 6, chip number U16. It's giving us something different, U16. That's the last chip. So does this one, I've heard that this one tests from the other direction, so does this one start with 16? And maybe 16 is bad too? Giving me the same number, U16, on card number 6. Oh boy, okay. Well, this is turning into be quite a conundrum. But I don't feel so bad because if you enjoy watching this type of thing, board repair, if you really want to watch somebody that knows what they're doing, there's a YouTube channel called Classic Arcade Repairs. I recommend you check it out, do a search, and or maybe I'll put a link in the description of this video. Check him out. He works on just about any board, any arcade board that comes along. He has all the fancy equipment. He knows how to use it, and he has a good approach to repairing the boards. Like I say, he has a much better understanding of how all this works, and he has all the equipment he needs to do all the RAM and ROM and addressing testing and logic comparator, well, logic analyzer. I don't know if he has a comparator, but because he has an analyzer. So with the analyzer, I don't guess you'd need a comparator, but he puts out some nice videos and you can really learn a lot from him. Now, he just completed a series on Robbie Roto, which is another Midway card rack system game. And he just repaired 2 of these boards. And like my first one, I believe he only had 2 bad RAM chips. He fixed that board with no problem. But when he got to the second board, like I'm having this one here, he had all kinds of trouble. And he wound up replacing every chip on the board. And he tried to swap out the 2047, no, 4027, yeah, the 4027 RAM with another RAM where he had to make a modification because these run on 3 voltages, and the ones that he was putting in, I believe, only ran on 5 volts and 12 volts. It didn't run on the -5. I think that's the way it is. But anyway, he wound up having to revert it back and replace all of them again with 4027s to get the board to work. After watching the video, I don't know whether he figured out exactly what was wrong,
like I say, he replaced not only all the IC chips, but the resistors and capacitors, and he went through that whole board completely rebuilt, but he got it working. So is that what I'm going to have to do? I don't know. I definitely have to order more 4027 RAM. If these are bad, I could go ahead and just start taking all these out and testing them to find out if they all test bad. That way I'll know I'll need more RAM and I'll have to order more. But what if they're good? And what if they're going bad from me taking them out of the board? I kind of doubt that, but it's possible. So should I go ahead and replace these other chips first and see if I get the same results before I swap any more RAM? That's the decision I'm thinking about right now. So I'm going to have to think about it, and we'll come up with a decision. We'll be back. Well, here's the next update. This is what I've done so far. I went ahead and I pulled all these chips off the board: U17, U18, U19, U20, U21, and U22. Pulled them all off the board, tested them in my IC chip tester. They all tested good. So I went ahead and I put sockets in the board, and I went ahead and put new chips in anyway. I tested all the new chips before I put them in the socket. So all of the supporting ICs on this board have been replaced. They're known good, and the board is still exhibiting the same problem. With the Commander Dave test ROM, right now it's still saying that U16 right here is bad. So the only conclusion I can come to is that these RAM chips are bad, because everything else is testing good. And when I pulled all these other RAM chips off, they tested bad. I don't think it's because of my desoldering technique, because all these other chips I pulled off test good. So I'm thinking that somehow this board had some type of catastrophic failure. I would think probably the power supply in the game probably went haywire and probably zapped these chips. But of course, that's just a guess. Who really knows? The only thing I know to do now is to go ahead and we'll start with U16, which is the next one that the program says is bad. And I'm going to pull it out and stick it in the other board and test it. Now, I don't have any other chips to put in here except for the two that's on the working board. So if two more chips don't fix it, then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and probably just pull all these remaining chips off and test them, see if they test good, see if they test bad. And I already have on order enough new RAM chips to go ahead and completely redo the board if I have to. But they won't be here for a while, so in the meantime I'm going to do what I can do to try to figure out whether these remaining chips are bad. And also, I'm running short on 16-pin dual wipe sockets. And so I placed an order for some more sockets. So after we do the next couple, we might be on hold until I get my order in. And then we're going to resume. One way or the other, we're going to fix this board. There's no reason why the board's not working, except for the fact that these RAM chips have to be bad. So that's where we stand right now. So let me get to work. Okay, well, it's been about a week, and I finally got my order of RAM in. So I got 25 RAM in this big long holder here. And I've already took 2 of them out and put them in this working board that we put the 2 sockets in, the first one we fixed, and tested 2 of them, and they tested good. So I pulled one back out, and when I got my 16-pin sockets in, I went ahead and replaced U4 here, and I just put the new RAM chip in and tested it. Now it moves to U7. It says U7 is bad. So I'm just going to continue to replace the socket on the next chip when it says it's bad. And I'm just going to go ahead and go through it off camera. The video's already way long enough. When I finally come to the end, or the one that fixes it, we'll be back. Okay, I'm happy to report we now have success. I've already tested it, but we're going to test it again right here. I'm going to turn the game on. The board is already in it. And let's go around to the front. And so you see the screen looks pretty good. Let's press the player 1 button. All video memory test good. So we're good to go. That fixed the board. Now, there's 16 DRAMs on this card. Anybody want to take a guess of how many I had to replace before I hit the number? What number was bad? And how many are still good on the board, if any are good? All right, let me pull the board and I will let you know right now. Okay, here's the board. Do you see it? Okay, there's only one chip on that board, one DRAM that was good. The rest of them were bad. So I replaced all these other chips, the 2 down here and the 4 up here, for nothing. But they're in sockets now, so if they go bad again, it'll be a quick and easy fix. I'm tempted to go ahead and pull that first one out, but since that first one there, U1, is a survivor, I'm going to leave it in there. If it goes bad, I still got plenty more I can fix it. Okay, here's the rundown. When I started, I had replaced U4, and then it said U7 was bad. I replaced U7, then it said U9 was bad. So I replaced U9, and it said U11 was bad. But after replacing U9, the picture did clear up a little bit, and it got a little better. But it stayed the same until the last chip. Okay, I replaced U11, and then it said U13 was bad. Replaced U13, then it said U15 was bad. So then I replaced U15, and now here we are with a working RAM board, passed the RAM test. So there we have it. I would have never thought that all those chips were bad. Something really bad must have happened to this board. And I'm sure it had to be power supply related. But this board came in a board set that I bought. I'm not sure where I got it. I got a couple boards off of eBay one time. And I got another board set long time ago off of somebody else. but that's been so long ago, I don't have a clue where I got that one. I may even have another set around here somewhere that is in a box and is buried somewhere, and I forgot where it is. But hopefully, as I continue to clean up out in the garage, maybe I'll run across it. I did run across a empty card cage out there. So I have 3 empty card cages here that these boards came in, and I got one out in the garage. So I'm betting I got some more boards around here somewhere. I'm definitely going to have to look them up, because if they got some of those custom chips that are good, I could use some. Anyway, so that concludes this video, and I thank you for sticking with me, those of you that have stuck with me to the end. Don't feel bad if you cheated and skipped ahead a little bit. I know it's kind of boring watching the same thing over and over and over again, but that's what arcade repair is a lot of times. Sometimes you just have to keep plugging away at it and fix one thing, then it's something else. Fix that, something else. And sometimes it just works out that way. Sometimes you fix one little problem and, everything is back to normal again. But it doesn't always work out that way. Okay, so on to something else. If you like my videos, give me a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button. I'm trying to get my subscriber count up. And I'm hopefully going to keep bringing some different content. I have a few things planned. I'm already working on something right now that I've got a few videos done, but it's going to be one of those long series, I do believe. And like this one here, I'm waiting on parts. So hopefully it won't be too long. We'll be seeing you again. This is just another arcade fix. Have you had your arcade fix today?